get this kicked off. So for those of us that are joining us for the first time, SRM hosts this Perspectives Live podcast on a monthly basis. It is an open discussion within our financial community. We have a chance to pick the brains of some very interesting people, especially subject matter experts around emerging technology, fintechs, and how they really intertwine into our emerging financial landscape. My colleague Larry Press normally hosts this event. However, for those of you who follow him on LinkedIn, he's probably on a plane or in a session with someone else right now. So he's getting busier and busier, of course, with going across the country talking about AI, emerging technology, digital assets, especially stable coins recently, some of the blockchain advancement. He and I were actually together in Ohio last week doing a couple presentations. So today I'm happy to step in and host. It's been a little while for me, so it's good to see everybody here. I am Patti Bush. Some of you know me well. I've been with SRM for about 8 years now, in the financial industry over a couple of decades now, but so I just love this particular area, so I'm excited. I can't wait to dive into this topic more. Larry and I were actually doing some prep with Shane, and I'm like ferociously writing down notes and things that I'm already working on to protect my identity. So it's a little scary, but I'm glad we're having this conversation. So today's episode, we are having a conversation with an ethical hacker. Let's put in the ominous music there. So joining me is Shane Orin.
I run a company, as you guys can see in my header here, which is Silver Fox Innovations. So companies reach out to me to help them figure out their go-to-market or for a launch strategy, or they, want to accelerate revenue growth. So I am currently working with a company doing that. And funny enough, it's also in the security space. So I've been in the security space now for 8-ish years. I was a plasma physicist. Yes, you heard me correct. Turned sales leader before I got into this. And it's truthfully, I wish I got into this 10 years before. The stuff I know now, the stuff I see, the conversations I have at retirement homes, the conversations I have with banks, businesses, and large Fortune 500s, when they find out just how vulnerable they are. And sometimes it's because I hack them on a phone call and break into their account as them while we're talking. Just to show them how easy it is to do. Or sometimes it's done because they won't respond to my sales reps. So we try and show them how easy it is to do in hopes that they'll give us a conversation.
The scare tactic. I love it.
Yeah, exactly right. So happy to be here today.
Awesome. Well, and so some of this information, I think I've led into it a little bit, is what we want to know, what our financial institutions want to know, but it's also the information we need to somehow be curating to our customers and our members, what they need to know in education through that aspect of it. So make sure you follow Shane on LinkedIn. I was poking around, again, not being weird, but I needed to know what I was talking about, and some really good posts that you've had. So, I mean, you're really here to pull back that curtain on what the bad guys are doing. So I don't do this, but Shane actually is in the dark web. He's surfing around in there and seeing what the bad guys are up to, and more importantly, how we can stay one step ahead of them, again, to protect our institutions, to protect our teams, ourselves, and our members and our customers. So, you mentioned, of course, about a little bit about yourself and how you came to do this. Do you mind expanding a little bit more? You shared with us how you became an ethical hacker. What is an ethical hacker?
Yeah, look, an ethical hacker really is a curious sales leader that wants to figure out how to beat his competition, right? So it started out just that way. There's 200 competitors in the ID verification space. That includes KYC and AML, which you guys deal with regularly. And I had to know how my competition could be beaten, where their weaknesses were, and how I could exploit them in a polite way to win that business and bring it to the attention of our prospects. So I went on Amazon and I bought a ID and badge printer. Simple, right? Anyone can buy it. It was 200 bucks. Badge card stock was like $100 for 200 badges, and I was off and running. So with some simple things like that, and no dark web, actually things and templates you can find. Every state publishes their template of their driver's licenses, tells you where the security seals are, the symbols, the reflections. You also learn that there's only 3 vendors that print security film for US driver's licenses. Great. Well, what do they look for? The sheen, right? The indentation, the embossing on it. And you realize that the cameras on your laptops and on your phones aren't sophisticated enough, or the technology behind them isn't sophisticated enough to actually read any of that. So it just sees, is there a seal on the right-hand side? Yes, great. That's assuming that you, the financial institution, actually look at that. Majority of the banks out there today that are in the space really just read the back of the driver's license. They do a cross-reference against the AAMVA database and say, does the back of this license say Shane Orin, that he's over 21 and that the driver's license is valid? Now remember, you can only ask the AAMVA yes or no questions. So you can't see my face and you can't ask it, is this Shane? Seems like a flawed system. One in which I found out in about a week that it was that easy to go to a liquor store. They just scan the back of the ID because they just want to say that they did their
Are you
job,
21? Yeah.
right? Just like some banks take minimal precaution when opening an account. They just want to comply with KYC or AML, and they've done that, right? Name, address, date of birth, locations, done. It doesn't say validate that it is Shane holding the document.
Right.
That's really for the bank or teller or the person signing up, that new person with the account. Well, that didn't stop it. It was pretty easy to do. Most of the systems out there today, I could bend a piece of paper, so I could print out Patty's face that I took her picture from LinkedIn. I printed on a piece of paper. I would just bend the piece of paper a little bit so it looked like it was contoured, and I would just shake it in front of my camera. My hands holding the paper, and it would pass their liveness test, because what it was looking for was movement. So I can't see you guys, but by show of hands, you can raise it secretly. If you had an old iPhone 3, 4, or 5, when the fingerprint scanner came out, you could also get into that cell phone with a copy of that print. It didn't have to be a live breathing print. There was no feedback from the thumb. So just a picture of it. You could take it off a glass. You could take it off a counter. You could take it off all sorts of things. Like you're at the bar, you hand that bartender back the glass, they can now get into your device.
Oh my gosh.
Now, that was harder than it is today to break into your telephone. And I'll talk about that in just a second. If we go down the path of how I really got into it, was Apple released a new update. And I said, huh, the piece of paper bent isn't working for Apple's anymore. Still working for Samsung, but not for Apple. Okay, go back to Amazon. I buy a 3D printer. I pull Patty's face again from LinkedIn or any media that she's on. And I would print a 3D head with suspected sizes of head, right? And I just, okay, and so what? I print it 2 or 3 times. It takes me about 2 hours per print. I put it on the swivel base and I would just turn it now, and then I could get into your iPhone 8 out of 10 times. So yes, they are using better technology, but what it's not doing is checking that I'm actually a live breathing human.
Okay.
It's
Right.
judging movement and liveness based on movement. So I don't tell you this to scare you guys. I tell you to kind of tell you this is why I got into it. There's a large crypto exchange that the CEO refused to take a call. I finally said, I can hack into your account in less than 5 minutes. I'll do it with you on the phone. This is not a threat. I just want to show you how vulnerable you are. I explained who I was when he got on the phone. He was already steam coming out of his ears, felt like I was, yelling at him. Yeah, sorry, Jessica.
I told you.
Right?
There was a warning on this episode.
Yeah. So look, I went on the dark web. I got a copy of his driver's license. It cost me $2 to get it on the dark web. It wasn't a big deal. I printed it on my printer, front and back, and I broke into his account with him on the phone in less than 3 minutes. His 2FA came to me because he'd already fallen for the 2FA scam. So the 2FA that we all know, love, and trust, and we really rely on, isn't all that reliable.
Yeah.
Okay, so if anyone has gotten a text that says, do I know you? Hey, hello. Can you watch my dog? Oh, must have the wrong number.
Are you available? I literally got one last week. Are you in town or are you out of town? And
Yeah,
I'm like, I don't even know who this is.
new phone. Who dis?
Yeah.
Guess what? That pretty much means your data's been in a breach, and the only thing they're missing from getting into your bank account is your two-factor authentication. The larger banks use a lot more back-end data to look at patterns and behavioral patterns and things of that nature that in my experience, I'm going to leave it at that, the smaller credit unions and banks don't use, or they have a weight on it. So you must fail one of the others before they then want to go pay the fee to do that. So getting a 2FA, if you respond to one of those text messages, by the way, please just go and change all your passwords. What happens is when you respond back, you don't know it, but you're sending back your EIN, so your cell phone EIN, that's your cell phone number. You're sending back your carrier, your closest tower. If you send you a second text, what's behind that is a phish, and they're looking for you to say, I approve full access to the device. So they can actually clone your device. They can do it on a SIM card clone, or they could just do it and load it into their PC, put in your EIN, and on their computer, they could run a cell phone simulator and take over your cell phone. Now, what happens then is, I know that Patti, I don't know where you live, I'm just going to make it up. Patti lives in Dallas,
I'm not going
Texas.
to tell you.
Yeah, don't worry, I'll find out. Patti lives in Dallas, Texas, and I see, because I can ping her device, that she took a vacation or a trip to California. She banks with Texas Federal Credit Union. Great. All I have to be is with my clone device now, closer to her bank than she is. The tower that it comes from is called an SS7. If you really want to be terrified, go look up YouTube SS7 networks. How easy it is to clone your device and get and redirect your signal to me and not you would take me about 30 seconds. And I've learned this in the last 12 months. If I can do it, being an ethical hacker, not using it for bad, what are they doing with it?
So when you get that message, do you delete and block, or what's the right way to, because we've
Yeah.
seen, I mean, some of us are getting used to it now. Do we just delete and block that?
Yeah, so it's an interesting one. So when you say delete and it says delete and report junk, it doesn't do anything. I
Okay,
almost feel like it gets me more of those coming. So
right.
I actually save the contact as junk and then block.
Okay,
There is a company out there today that's trying to work with the telephone carriers and the US government to put practices and fines in place so that the carriers have to block and not allow this type of activity on their network.
right.
However, the way we move, it's going to be slow. So it's still probably 2 to 3 years out before this company is successful. T-Mobile is the only company that's on board with it right now. The other big carriers don't want to get on board yet because just like you guys have FDIC, they're trying to hold the carriers accountable for any loss that takes because of this, right? If I get your 2FA, Patti, and I get it and respond to the bank, take over your bank account, and you got no money, you call the bank thinking you're FDIC insured.
Right.
However, the bank then says, well, she authorized it. She gave us back the 2FA. She gave permission to do this transfer. This is the battle that's going on. This is nothing new for you guys in the battle that you're seeing, but how easy it is to do is almost alarming. So what I would say, and I'll pause, is there's two vectors. Remember that. There is the people inside the bank or credit union, and there are the people outside. So you've got employees and customers. Those are your two attack vectors. And how they come at you is scary.
Well,
I can talk more about that.
yeah. So there's a lot of tips in here that I'm sure everybody's writing down. One thing we had talked about yesterday, I guess the first question is, and I'll back it up, is are we going back to a place where we're now going to go have to walk into the branches more to verify we are who we say we are? And I know that a lot of times we have bad guys advance and then we level up, and then and is that getting further apart? But one thing that I shared with you yesterday, just coincidentally, my 22-year-old sent me a video that he saw on TikTok. I'm not on TikTok. He sent me this video about a woman whose husband got a call from her phone number. And when he answered it, thinking it was her, it was a guy saying, I have your wife. She's been kidnapped. Sell me $500 and I'll release her. Long story short, he didn't do that, but they were able to, and she was fine. She was at home, she was with kids, whatever, and they were able to do that. So now my voice authentication doesn't work. You just talked about the video authentication not working, and how easy it is. You'd shared how easy it is. You only need a couple of words and you can go ahead and replicate. So the tip was, and you'll share it, change your voicemail. Don't have it as your voice. When you answer your phone, just say hello. Don't say anything else. So please walk through all of that because that's crazy.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Yes, Vikram, you were 100% correct. AI has made it super easy. I could replicate any bank or credit union's landing page in about 30 seconds using AI. Send a QR fish to your cell phone saying, hey, you need to re-log in. We had a breach. We just want to confirm it's you. As soon as you do that, it actually QRs to what looks like a trustful bank site. It's just a replica. They type in their information. I have a keystroke recorder, and I've got their account and I'm off and running. So yes, AI makes it extremely difficult. If what we're saying is, do we have to go back to going into a bank? People want maximum availability and as little friction as possible.
Right.
Right? They want to do what they want to do on the move, wherever they are. Work from home has done that for us post-COVID. However, the problem is now there's very few solutions in the world, two that I'm aware of, that have a good enough liveness detection that they can actually tell if you're a live breathing human and that you're not a spoof or a deepfake. Right? So let me share my screen for a second if it'll let me. All right. So can you guys see the screen? I will turn it. I'll turn up my volume. This took about 5 seconds to make on an audio clip that I found for yesterday.
Hi, this is Patti, the SVP of Client Development of SRM. This video may not be perfect, but it is entirely AI generated using a single image. These videos can be made of your coworkers and even your CEO. The reality is AI generated videos like this are getting better and better. Let's see if you can tell what's real and what's fake.
Okay, that was from less than 3 seconds of audio and one picture. Right?
Crazy.
Now, I could also tell this AI to get angry. So let's look at what that is. So I did the second set here, which is let's have a simulation of a phone call where I'm going to talk to Patti, and let me know if you guys can hear it. Patti, just give me a thumbs up if you can hear this.
Okay. Hey, Shane, it's Patti. Got a minute?
Yeah, Patti, I got your voicemail. What's up?
Okay, great. I'm literally about to run into a board meeting and I am locked out of my email account. I desperately need to grab the presentation deck. Can you help me out by giving me access to your email so I can find it?
Yeah, sorry, Patti. You need to contact IT for that.
I would, but I don't have time before this meeting. You were the first person I saw online on the team. I know you have access to the files. Can you just give me your login so I can find it?
No, Victoria said you should call her.
I don't have time to call around, Shane. I know you have access and I can find it myself if you just give me your login. It's not ideal, but I'm just trying to.
Okay, you guys get the point, right? So AI is so good today that in the back end of that script, I can tell it to threaten your job. Then it will go there. And then it uses OSINT. Everyone's familiar with that, right?
Yeah.
So open source intelligence data. I can have it pull up anything you've ever posted to a web, anything. And it's free. Anyone can do it. If you pay for a tool like ChatGPT and you pay for the other one, you can get more OSINT data. But in essence, I could find your date of birth, what hospital you're born at, how much you weighed, like all of any data that's been in a breach is going to come back in your OSINT data. So if you've never really gone and looked at yourself, ask someone who's got a paid account to go pull your OSINT data on you. Now, what it will do is it learns your patterns, it learns your behavior, who you dated, anything that's been posted, right? And I can pull it, and then it'll use that against you in the phone call.
Yeah.
So the one that happened to a large bank in Singapore,
Yep.
they had a fake Zoom. Everyone
Yep.
on that call was fake except for the CFO, where the CEO convinced the CFO to wire 25 or 50 million, I forget the exact number.
Yep.
And when they did the debrief with this guy and figured out like what was going on, he said they were on the call. I could see them. They were all there. Everyone was there.
Yeah.
Only to then go back and analyze that and realize it was fake. So these two things that I just showed you guys take me seconds to do. So to go back to answer your question, Patti, of what do we have to do?
Yeah.
I do think today we're behind. And I think the first step is education, right? So educate your staff first. If it seems fishy, it is. Do not click on a link, right? The latest trend that's going around is I send you an email, Patti, and I say, hey, Shane, I need an urgent favor. Could you give me a call? And I put a number in there. Now, some people pull up their phone, go to contacts, and dial Shane. Some people don't think about that fast enough. They just dial the number and call me.
Yeah.
What they're going to get is that same voice I just showed you. Now, when that voice starts to get nervous, antsy, threatening your job, like, fine, I'll send you the board deck, like here. And you send it. Or they say, great, I'm now going to send you a link. You just send it to my personal email. When you click on the link, you just gave them your access credentials. So as I take a step back and I say, let's forget about the customers for one quick second. If it starts internally with the training that you guys can do to educate your employees so they don't fall for this and expose you to the business, that's number one. Um, Teach them what's going on, what the latest trends are. There's not a lot of good tools out there, right? I found Adaptive because I really believe they're using AI to fight AI. Sadly, I think that we as banks and credit unions are probably still, a year behind where the fraud
Mhm.
is happening today. And that's scary, right? Because they're attacking so much, and it's not always about money, by the way. When I
Right.
interview a lot of these guys, and I say interview, you have to be careful what you ask in the dark web, and how you kind of approach some of these questions. And there's gatherings, by the way. One of the largest ones happens to be in Las Vegas. Um, I just ask it, why do you do this? Like, what drives you? I mean, you can have all the money you want in one hack. What drives you? And they said chaos. It was an interesting,
Interesting.
it was an interesting answer that I've thought about for a long time now. This was over a year ago when I got invited. I think they know who I am now, so I'm no longer invited, but
Uh,
I can still poke around. Um, Chaos, right? They just want to cause it. And I think that's an interesting way to look at it. And a lot of these hackers are not US, by the way.
right.
They are international. They're kind of all over. So going back to your point, I think that education is number one. If we can educate, we can minimize. If then we can look for solutions out there in the space that have the ability to detect liveness, I think that your fingerprints have all been a breach. Almost every hospital has been hacked. They almost just don't know it. We talked yesterday, again, the show of hands. How many of you have gotten a toll booth? Hey, to pay your fee, you're behind. We're going to suspend it. Click here. Yep, exactly right. The when we talked to the hacker in California who put that scam in place, what he said was he didn't break into the state database for toll booths. He set up his own license plate reader camera half a mile past it that nobody
Yeah.
was ever going to worry about, and he runs it through the AAMV database, which he pays his $2,000 a year to access, and then he knows that car's registered to Patty Bush.
Yeah.
He's already got her cell phone number, so then they just send text, and it's all automated. So every time a plate goes by, it sends you a text message. So
So that so there were a couple of tips in there. One, you had said change your voicemail so that it's either the automated system or have your spouse or somebody other than your voice
yeah,
to do your voice messaging. So we actually checked ours last night, and we've got just the standard, automated one. Phew. Um, and then the other one was having a code word so that if my husband gets that call that says, I have your wife, she's been abducted, sell me money, he's going to have to, as proof of life, however the conversation goes, ultimately will be, I need the code word to know that it's actually her, and whatever it is, I give that or I don't give it, and then they know that it's a spoofing thing. So that I thought was a really helpful tip. It's funny because after we had our call yesterday, our company sent out a QR code for just an internal survey we're doing for a meeting next week. And I pushed back and I said, hold on a second, is this legit? Because I just learned that I shouldn't be clicking on QR codes, which I know you were going to talk real quick about QR codes too.
yeah, let's finish the conversation on the voice, then we'll move to QR.
Yep. Yeah.
Um, so license plates, you guys got it. The tip there is don't click on a link in a text message. It's no
Right.
longer secure. Whether you're an iPhone or not, the clicking on a text link is no longer secure. You guys should also notify your customers, right? We will never text you asking for account information.
Yep.
The trick is really when I teach at the senior centers now is to look at the back of your ATM card and dial the number, hang up, dial the number that's on the back, and then interact with your bank that way or go to the website. Remember that you only need 3 spoken words of your voice to do about a 50 to 60% accuracy. If I get 10 spoken words of your voice, I can do it 100% accurate. So I can change your speed, your tone, your anger. I can do all sorts of things. 10 words is my number one trick. So think about that. How many times have you answered a phone for a number you don't recognize? Hello, are you there? Hello? Can you stop calling me? You're angry. Or somebody actually says something to you and you continue to talk. 10 spoken words. How many are on your voicemail? How many on your socials? How many times have you answered those calls and said something? Think about that as you move forward.
So
Adjustment.
just say hello
Yeah, have one greeting that
or
you
what's
always
up.
say,
Yeah,
right?
what's up.
Hello, not hello, this is Shane.
Right.
There's
And
4.
and you said even if you're getting a call from someone you think it is. So if my husband calls me, I still say hello. I
Yeah.
don't say, hey, honey, I'm on my way to the grocery store, because it could be not him and they're taking my voice.
Yeah, phone number clones are easy. I can dial it from my computer dialer and clone your device phone number, no problem.
Yeah. What
So
about leaving voicemail? So I mean, I call people all day long. Am I
bad. You're fine.
bad?
They would have to
Oh,
hack
that's
the
fine.
carrier to
Okay,
get a voicemail to then you're
great.
fine. You can leave
Okay,
one. So voice is 10 words. If any of you by thumbs up again are members of Marriott, Costco, Amazon, Facebook,
all of the
let's
above.
see, ever used an Oracle product? Um, right, Amazon has had 3 data breaches. They were just below the minimum threshold, so they didn't have to publicly announce it. But they would have sent out an SMS saying, "Hey, you've been involved in a breach. Click here." Like the stupidest thing you could possibly do. That's happened. Who just got the latest one? Zoom just got the latest one. So you're going to get an email that says, "Hey, please re-authenticate your Zoom credentials." And it's going to look like the Zoom email. It's going to have the Zoom box. Log in here. Just check the URL. The URL in the email too is going to be some weird one. It's not a Zoom one.
Right.
It's getting so many people. So we see these a lot because I have obviously in the space and we hear from and talk to a lot of people and we kind of surf the dark web to see what the patterns are. That
Yeah.
leads us back to QR code. So
Yep.
QR codes are becoming the fastest fish out there for the following reason. If I have to then get your cell phone and clone it, there's a few ways to do it like we talked about. You can respond to the SMS. If you're in a bar and your phone is open because you're an open phone talker, so like you're in thought, somebody talks to you, you set your phone down, they're probably running a scam on you. There's probably a person to your right, a person to your left. Somebody asks you a question, you turn, their device has to be within about a foot of yours, 18 inches of yours. And the RFID signal that we put in to scan digital passports is strong enough to transmit all of your data and authenticate it. It'll allow it. You don't even have to authorize it now. iPhone put in bump technology. The bump technology means I have to agree to share my content. The hackers have written an app to override it now. So if their cell phone's close enough, they can clone your device.
Yeah.
That's
So what if you can buy those wallets that, are supposed to block it? Is that legit or are they? Because I bought one.
RFID wallets for your cards work great. Now,
Okay.
Apple has gone in and readjusted the power of their RFID scanner, almost to the point it will not read chips anymore unless it's got a strong emitter. But like in your passport, it's not strong enough. For all
Right.
of you who've gotten a new passport like the last 8 years, there's a microchip in the spline right in the middle. You can hold your phone up to it and it'll show you who you are. But Android has not changed their power settings. And you can also go override and jailbreak an Android, and I can increase that to like 2 volts to 3 volts, and then I can get within like 4 feet of you and pick up every credit card you have. So yes, RFID wallets are good. I'm not
Okay.
here to talk about all of those, but
Yeah.
the devices on Androids are super powerful and they can do it no problem.
Right. Right. And the QR codes, just to put a bullet on that one, that was not scanning them at the gas station, not scanning them at the park and pay.
Yeah,
If you go to a restaurant and they've got the menu and you're supposed to scan the QR code, ask for a physical menu. So
yeah.
there's different ways to minimize that.
Yeah, and I'm not here to fear monger or make it so you guys don't go out of your house. I'm just saying be educated. QR
Right.
codes are on the rise. The latest three that we're seeing is this. Los Angeles on the parking meter, it says scan here to park. So you have like their parking app. And it's not. It's just a hacker who put it on every single meter in LA, like thousands and thousands of stickers. You scan it, you think you paid, you came back, you've got a ticket, and they've got all your information. When
Yeah.
you scan that QR code, it even brings up a successful landing page, says successfully paid, so you don't think about it. You walk off about your business, and they're still at large. Like nobody's found them. They got away with like $2.5 million the first day because of people trying to pay their parking pass or parking fees on those. So not only did they get 2.5 million in fees that you paid, they also now have access to your device and anything there. So it's not as bad as it sounds. I mean, it's not like they downloaded a keystroke copier. It's not like they can see what you're doing on your device. It just means that they've got the ability to redirect your two-factor. So if you've done that or if you see one that's weird, know that. The next one that's happening is they're actually sending QR codes to your house either in an envelope, usually a manila envelope with a white piece of paper, and it'll say, "Congratulations, your friend has sent you a gift. Click here to redeem
Mm.
your gift." And as soon as you click that, it takes you to a landing page, which is a 403 error, so page not found. And remember what I said, if it asks you to do it twice, there's a problem. So then you scan it the second time, and that's giving you the access to it. Um, yep, it could be on an Amazon
Yeah.
box. That's a great one. I haven't heard of that one yet, but I'm sure we'll see it sometime soon. which makes you wonder how they're getting it on the package, but nevertheless, do not scan it. There's a company called Built, which is a scan QR code instruction company. They're seeing a lot of it right now, so we're talking to them about how they can help themselves and figure that out. But
So let's bring that back to the institutions, and that's all good stuff for members and our customers. Let's pull it back inside, and what are, like, how are we investing in training? Like I said, I know SRM does it. We got an email. We actually got a test yesterday. It was a 25, especially during Prime Day, it was perfect. It was a $25 gift card to Amazon Prime, and it's Prime Days, and it was a test. I deleted it, but that's one of those things. How are we adequately training our people? What could we do more? What are the biggest things that are either the misconception or bumping this up on the level of importance and budgeting for better ways, not doing the free versions?
yeah, look, training is hard. By thumbs up, who likes training? Don't worry, I know the answer to the question. The answer is nobody.
Trainers.
They're long, not even the trainers. They do it because they have a job. But the reality is that, like, nobody likes it. But we all can sit on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook for hours and death scroll. So why not make a training that feels that way, that's engaging the learner, that very much just like I showed you Patty's face and image, would you pay more attention if it was your CEO talking to you through the training, right? So using AI to create customized, tailored training that gets the employee's attention, that's short, 2, 3 minute videos with a quiz. Then you send out fishes in that coming week,
That's what we got.
right? Saying, hey, we've now done the training. In the next 7 days, we're going to send 2 to 3 fishes. Don't tell them what it is. It doesn't have to be, I mean, by the way, I say fish, just so you guys are aware, there's like 10 different versions of that now. There's
Yeah.
SMS, there's video, there's voice, there's chat, there's
Yeah.
vendor impersonation, there's email with phone. Like they all have a fish at the end of it, but there's a lot of them up front now. So the old school training programs that we've all known and hate are outdated. They're not customized. They paid some corny actors that we've seen 100 times for the last 10 years. We all just kind of click through it while we're watching YouTube or scrolling or doing work. Maybe we have our kids do it. I might have been guilty of that a time or two. I'll give you $5 if you just get through the security training. But like, did that help the company? No, it didn't do anything for us other than we checked the box that said, yes, we did the security training. So I would encourage everyone to look at their practices that they're doing. If you have an employee click rate of 5% or less, you're not doing yourself justice. Okay. The stats are an old training, not AI driven, and there's only really 2 vendors in the space and really 1 vendor in the space that uses AI to custom tailor training and the phishing, right? So they're AI generated attacks, simulations. Um, your response rate in these companies have like a 5% or less click rate jump up to 60% because it's not getting stuck in your front end filters anymore.
Right.
It's so good there aren't misspellings. They can duplicate your company's website now using direct mail injection. There's things that we don't think about, but the fraudsters are thinking about. So if we go back to training, you really need to ask your training person, or if it's you yourself, what are we doing? Are we using AI to generate these AI attacks? Are we keeping track of the fishes that we do catch and then reissuing them to the employees? Is there remediation training for the people who clicked on it?
Right.
Somebody keeps clicking or we wouldn't keep sending them and the fraudsters wouldn't keep going, right? So training that doesn't mean, hey, you're going to get fired if you fall for this. So everyone's just so scared. They only talk to the people they know and they don't want to touch anything else. That's
Right.
not a good way to work. You're going to end up getting in trouble one day or another. There are fish hook buttons now where if you suspect it, you can click that. Some
Yep.
companies, the one I aforementioned, if somebody clicks it, it will remove that from everyone's inbox until IT or security has reviewed it, deemed it to be fish or not. And if it's not, it will reissue it back to the inboxes.
Yep.
So the ability to move faster and minimize front end filters aren't catching AI fishes anymore. They're
Yeah.
just not, they're too good, right? If I have your right email address, I spell your name correctly, well, I got all that out of OSINT data. Of course it's correct,
Yeah.
right? That's the way you should protect yourself internally. Training is definitely important, and I can't stress it enough. Like
I just wrote down the fish hook because we have that and I literally forget. Sometimes I just delete it because I know it's scam and I'm not even thinking about it. My worst scenario is I'm a self-proclaimed multitasker. So I see that it says SRM Corp da 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 and see the SRM one Corp and I just missed it because I wasn't paying close enough attention to it. And that's what worries me the most, is just not being more mindful in everything I'm doing all along the way.
let's talk for a second, then we can go back on track. The number of banks and credit unions ranging from let's just say 500 members to 5,000 members that I've spoken to, both when I was on the identity fraud side of the house and now on the training side of the house, that say, yeah, I hear you, but we just can't afford it. I can't do it. It's these things that I keep thinking about, and truly it keeps me up at night. Like I just journal about the stuff. When I get off of these companies, I write it down. Like I hope that none of them are ever in the news. Some of them, if I told you their names, you guys would lose your mind because they're massive. But the smaller ones are the ones that the hackers go after. We can see it. We know what they're going after. We can look at your front end filters and start to figure out why they're coming to you. Um, it's one of those things that, what's it worth to still be in business, I would say. And I'm not saying it to fear anything. You guys can do what you want to do. I'm merely just saying the number of times I get a, no, we're okay, we don't need to do that. And then I just say, hey, can we just do a proof of value? And can I just do a POV and look at your front end filter and tell you how many hacks are getting through?
Yeah.
Or how many accounts you guys have that may be a replica of Patty Bush,
Right.
right? It happens more often than you think. And I think that it's important that we look at it, take it seriously. The hackers are just going to get more persistent. It is a better mousetrap type of moment that we're in. But I truly think they're sitting back eating their sharp cheddar, and we're still trying to figure out how they got and took the cheese, right? And we're like, oh, they have it already? We didn't know. And that's why I got into this, to prove it to people of that it is that easy to do.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that training is number one, education, and then getting the proper systems in place, obviously, to help with that.
So some of that is like what you talked about, is some of those emails or phone calls or stuff. What are, when you think about, because we do a lot of consulting on tech stacks and looking, everyone's upgrading their digital infrastructure and their tech stack and their future proofing. Where should they be increasing like the vendor due diligence, or where are you seeing more vulnerabilities in the core? Is it in the mobile apps or APIs, or where are these attackers really finding the weaknesses in some of these?
Um, let's let's answer that, but in a different way.
Okay.
Um, every provider out there, Microsoft, Oracle, NICE, everyone thinks they have an LMS system. Hey, don't worry, just use mine. We can feed all your training through here. Okay, well, the training's only as good as the creator of it and how you track it. Again, I go back to training because I think that matters. So if you're looking at your stack, the way they're getting in isn't because they got in through an API that was open or a backdoor vendor. The way they're truly getting in today is vendor impersonation. That's the number one attack we see on financial institutions.
Mhm.
Um, Let me see if I can pull this up and I'll show you what that looks like, just so you guys know. Here, I'll share my screen again. This is just a simple one. Again, these are custom tailored. You guys are a Zoom user, so let's just open this one. Um, this looks legit, right? It's an email. Your Zoom has one participant. It started. Please click here to start the meeting. Obviously, looking at, if I go to the fail page, we'll show you why it failed. Hey, you clicked on it. This would be a phishing that they would send out, and then it tells them why they failed, right? But this looks pretty legit. Start meeting. Yep. Now that's not what Zoom says. Zoom says join meeting. But
Oh,
Addie's a multitasker, wasn't paying attention. It was the right blue. I clicked on it.
guilty.
We all get meeting alerts just like this. So you asked, that's why it's a hard question to answer, because they're not coming in through infrastructure. They're walking in through the front door because we let them. That
Yeah.
fish I just showed you is going to get past your front end filter. So you think, oh, I've got proof point. It's great. No problem. It's a good front end filter. It captures everything. And then you find out with AI, it's capturing 20% because you're not doing other checks. You don't understand what else is happening. And it's getting so good, it's getting past it. I'd like to hold proof point and those front end vendors accountable. But the reality is, I bet you in their T's and C's, they've got a clause that says we can't be held accountable. We're just here as a, as a helpful tool. So
Right.
they're not getting into the tech stack. I don't think that if you look at infrastructure, I think obviously you should have a front end filter, right? You should have some mail rules set. You should definitely put in a fish hook. There's only 2 or 3 companies that I know that actually offer what I would call a triage product. So if you, Patty, trigger the hook, it pulls it from everyone
Right.
versus it triggers it, it goes to an end box. Now there's only one vendor in the market, and I'm not going to promote here. I'm just going to say there's one vendor. You can get me off that actually will do it in real time and give you feedback. If you click the fish button and it'll say, congratulations, you successfully passed this training exercise. I want instant feedback. There's nothing worse than clicking it and then you sit there for the rest of the day like, man, was that a real one? Was it
Did
not?
anybody know? Yeah.
So I like the instantaneous feedback. Then for reporting purposes, that also shows your organization how many are getting through. You may be more diligent and realize that that didn't say join meeting, it said start meeting, and you would have caught it. So you click it and save everyone else from going through that. In the training, a lot of training vendors get false open clicks because your front end filter clicked that email that the training tried to launch because it doesn't have the proper communication with it. So you think you're only getting a 5% click-through rate, only to realize that probably only 5% of your organization is actually getting that test.
Right.
So you need to check your filter settings to make sure that's in there. Tech stack, I'm not an advisor. I just try and break things. That's what I try and do and figure out what
Yeah.
the weaknesses are. So I don't really have a point of view on that.
So are institutions adding this to their cybersecurity? This doesn't just, I feel bad sometimes for the CTOs and CISOs of the world because it falls on their head. What should the entire leadership team be asking themselves or conveying to their employees or figuring out how to message to the customers and members?
Um, this is not an easy answer. Continual training, period.
Yeah.
Continual phishing, but not in a maniacal way, meaning I'm not trying to trick you into it. I don't want to then use it against them in a review and say, hey, you clicked on 3 or 4 fishes this month. You're fine.
Right. Right.
This is for education purposes. And now
So messaging.
I'm going to show you one. We'll do, oh, these are all fun ones. They're using OSINT data to look and see what open postings you have for your company. Let's just say, for example, you're hiring a teller. Okay. They'll find out where you're located, what your company values are, anything you've ever posted or is on your website about what you guys want as who you are, right? Your mission statement. Put that in the fish email and then say to see my resume, click here. And you're gonna be like, oh my God, this candidate sounds amazing, like a unicorn. Like they know where we are, they work for a competitor, they've been in banking for 10 years. They send it to HR, knowing HR is trying to fill that role, and HR then clicks on that. These are happening every single day. We're probably seeing, no less than 1,000 a day just in the States alone to HR that's unsuspecting and just let them in that front door. You don't think about phishing like that. You think about it like, oh, I'm going to click on a link for something that's suspicious. Well,
Right.
they got your URL exactly right, except for there's a 1 at the end of it. And the candidate sounds amazing. I'm going to click on it. Is your HR set up to receive and know what to do with those? They're tailoring it to HR. They're tailoring it to engineering. They love, like it's a prized possession or a medal if they can get into a security engineer to click on a link. And it happens more than you think because it looks valid.
Yeah.
Right? So using industry specific or role specific fish is happening a lot right now. And so
Role specific.
these are things that we hadn't thought about before. Like I didn't know I needed HR specific training on
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
things.
That makes
So the trends we're seeing today are definitely, ramping up, and that's why it's so important. So yeah, I'll pause there.
I'll pause. I'm going to pause. This is supposed to be for everyone. So if there's anyone that has a question that wants to ask it, please chime in or raise your hand and we'll unmute you. I'm assuming Victoria, you can do that. Or you unmute you, or do people unmute themselves?
If your account is private on a Facebook or YouTube, YouTube's obviously public, so if you posted it there, you're done. Your image is all they really need. Your voice, they need 3 to 10 seconds. So voicemail, any public speaking, I speak all over the world doing this.
Yeah.
Mine's out there. I probably get no less than 10 or 15 of those SMS messages a day. Now people feel like I'm a target. They want to attack me. So now I do it through an alias when I go out and on stage. I don't use my real name. Sometimes I sit behind a screen or I wear a fake mask
Oh, jeez.
just to play the game and throw people off, but I get mine all the time. So
Oh my gosh. What haven't I asked you that typically when you're working with institutions, either they're asking or you're saying you should be asking this question?
consumer education is obviously a big piece of this, right? When I go speak at the retirement centers, nursing homes,
I
uh,
love that.
and I talk to them, the number of things I hear, like their son called them in panic in Mexico, he's in jail and he's $5,000. If I told you it only happened once or twice, I'd be lying. It's happened to almost everyone in there. Even though they know the person next door to them just told them the story about it, they still fall for the same thing because it's somebody under duress, it's a family member, you're panicked. How can we educate people more to protect all of us together? I think it is the responsibility of the institution to make sure that when somebody comes in, take a second. Hey guys, here's the latest trend that's happening right now. We would never do this, so please, if you see it, don't do that. I'd love to see it where banking as a whole or society as a government, we might even have these things that talk about it. When I go on and talk about it on YouTube, usually within a week or so or less, it's taken down, and YouTube can't explain why it's being taken down, which means somebody's either hacked it or internally removing it. I'm not using company names. I'm not mentioning people's names. There's no PII. I'm not getting an alert from YouTube, and yet magically, every time I post, it goes down. So they're ahead of it. They see what we're doing, but we aren't educating our clients. So when you can, take a moment to educate them, educate your staff, and then together, maybe we fall for a little bit less of these. And really, one person we can handle. An exposure of a whole company because somebody gets internally through that second vector, like I talked about, which is the employee. That's the bigger concern, right? If they're behind your firewall already, what are you going to do? So, truthfully, if I'm wrapping this all up with a nice bow, I think facial biometric liveness. You want a liveness vendor that is passed. There is a testing company in Europe, in London, that does a test. It could tell you their level of accuracy. There's only one company out there in the world that ever passes on the first try. It's called iBeta. You can go look it up, ibeta.com, and look at the test vendors for virtual visual liveness. I think we're coming there. I think we're going to get more vendors that show up. People are passing on the second and third attempt now on the regular. So it's getting better.
Yeah.
It can see your pulse. It knows your live breathing. It knows I have a background. It uses spatial awareness in your frame from your computer or your device to tell how deep the frame is. If I'm pixelated, if my heart is beating too fast because somebody's got me at gunpoint and I'm trying to get into an account, all of these things now, these liveness vendors can take into account. Um, it doesn't really cost much more than your current solution, truly. And it can do ID documents, passports, driver's license, and it can tell if the person's live breathing. So that's how I would do it if I was sitting on across the table and I was in your guys' shoes. I'd use liveness as my one point of entry, not a password or a password plus liveness, because it works.
And I know you mentioned not endorsing or an advertisement, but if the main point of all of this is the training, where are we going for the right amount of training, or who do we need to be talking to?
Yeah, look, adaptive security is definitely the leader. They're number one in the space. You've got KnowBe4, who I would say is number two, but they're not using AI, right? So their content training is a little older. Not your CEO talking about your training session and not micro learning. So that's on the training side. If you're on the ID fraud and verification side, how do you authenticate the user is who they say they are? I worked for IDverse. They just got acquired by LexisNexis, who's obviously already big into the banking fintech space. They've got the best tech hands down. That's why I went to go work there 3 years ago.
Yeah.
The tech works. I can't fake the liveness. I've tried it. I mean, I've tried it for the last 3 years, and I will, I've never gotten in. So um, every other vendor in this space I can get into. I know the code, whether it's a flashing series of lights. They're not hard to replicate once you know what it is. So those are the two companies I would just have a conversation with. I'm always happy to just to look at the system and kind of say, like, here's where I think your vulnerabilities are, or we could run a POV or POC, run a 5-fish test and show you where your vulnerability is. That's something that Adaptive can do, but that's how I would do it. Be in the know what you don't know, and then you can start to work on it.
Right. We are getting close to time, and I want to make sure either everyone's just as like freaked out as I am, and they don't know what to ask, or I don't know what to tell you, but I want to make sure if anyone has a question, please raise your hand or throw it in the chat bot. I mean, this has just been great. I hope we get to have you on again and maybe think of other questions. Is there any final, let me ask one thing too, in terms of like regulation or where the financial community, is anyone talking about doing things from a more global perspective instead of just these one-offs, each institution individually has to do it? Is anyone talking in the space about that?
Yeah, so I went to Money 2020 in Amsterdam and in Vegas this last 2 years. And the number one topic is how do we use our communal networks to empower us and make less of these fraudster mistakes and allow them in. So really sharing the fraud identities as you flag somebody fraudulent, sharing that on a global basis. Obviously, we've got HIPAA, you've got GDPR, you've got CCPA, you got all these compliance issues out of Illinois now with personal information and how you store it and what you can do with it. But there are companies trying to create a global fraudster database where you can actually upload that fraudster, the known fraudster. I think we need to take that lead and initiative and kind of do that for phish attacks, where we can start to create a global database. You hit the fish hook. The companies that are in this space should talk to each other and create one unified database. Yeah, sure. Maybe it's one that we have to subscribe to because that's the world we live in these days.
Right, right.
But then at least we could say, wow, QR code is number one, and there's been 200 million this year. I probably need to do more training for my staff on that.
Yeah.
Right? Then we'd have an educated idea of where it is rather than what a vendor might say, hey, this is number one. Well, we all know email, SMS, and then QR code's right behind it now.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much, Shane. Any last or chance for questions or observations or the biggest tip? Oh, there. Good. Finally, good. Vikram, what's your question? Jessica. Vikram, do you want to speak at Victoria, is there a way to hear him? He's unmuted. Do you want to type in your question real quick? So yeah, Jessica, I know I'm, like I said, I wrote down a bunch of things and probably gonna go change all the passwords on everything.
While he's typing, we talk about a secret word. You could use a secret word or a secret sentence. The secret word, if you text it like your kids, hey, when you get home, text me this each day. Remember that they have access to your cell phone. They can see your text messages.
Yeah.
So if they start to learn, the secret code is tomatoes, great, we know that, then that's how they're going to get past it. So remember that if you're getting those SMS and you have responded, they have access to it. If you haven't, you're fine. But I would use it so it's a rotating one or a sentence, like the sky is blue in Montana.
Right.
Right. And then you know it is. Not like, hey, what city were you born in? Now, you may make it funny and say Disneyland, and then you got something to work with, but let it be something that's normal.
Yeah. Great tip.
You guys hear me?
Oh,
Yes.
now we can hear you.
Oh, awesome. No, this was great. Patti, Shane, this was fantastic. And I was going to say, I'm glad you mentioned the Amazon test. One of the key things that I always look for is just know your domain, know your industry, know where things are, right? Like if you're in the middle of the holidays, Amazon Prime Day, always continue to do more security awareness training, like Shane talked about. one of the things that I know coming from other companies, especially in the Fortune 100 space, we always kind of wanted to make sure we tested our executive population. Patti, you talked about this whole AI deepfake, and there's a lot of AI deepfakes going on. The one thing I like to focus on is know what your crown jewels are, know what your high value assets are. And what that means really is if you're in accounting, finance, payroll, cutting checks, doing operational important items, there's always ways to go about custom phishing those specific individuals by banking scenarios, by BEC fraud. We've done a lot of these, or I've done a bunch of these in the past companies I've worked for. They always seem to work because going back to what Shane said, it's all about domain-specific awareness. So always know that if you're in finance, if you're in ops, if you're in account payables, you're likely going to get hacked. It's not the question of if, it's a question of when. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And when information security geeks approach you to do executive phishing tests, don't tell them no. Support them, give them the tools, and just make sure like you are getting that support from executive leadership, because that is very critical. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And I'll shut up, Patti, but that was like, I love the session, Shane. Appreciate you coming on here.
For sure.
Yeah, happy to be here and great points.
Thanks, Vikram. All right, thank you, everybody. Victoria, do you have the slide on when our next episode will be? I don't think we have a speaker or title yet, but the next perspectives, of course, will be August 14th. And we also have these on YouTube so that the bad guys can spoof my video and my voice again. Now I got to change my persona. I'm going to start wearing a disguise and change it. So thank you so much, Shane. I really appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thanks for your help, Victoria. And we'll talk to you all again soon. Have a great day.
You guys, take care.
Bye-bye.